And we're live. Hello, everybody. Today we're going to be, well, laughing at Hoppeans, as it says on the stream. So
Yeah,
the base, so the
last
base.
last
Sorry.
last time we did a stream on this channel, we mined a bunch of salt, and it looks like this time we're about to do the same. Even though, considering the group that we're talking about, it's probably going to be way worse.
Suffice to say, the amount of salt we'll be able to get will be absolutely. The amount of salt we'll be collecting today will probably be equal to the salt mined during or right after the 2016 presidential election. So yeah, basically the way this is going to work is that we're going to be going through some Hoppian memes, some Hoppian screenshots of Hoppians on Twitter and Discord making or giving us hot takes, and then we're going to explain why they're wrong. For the sake of their privacy, I've gone through the effort of making sure that their names and profile pictures are blotted out, and for it goes without saying that we do not want you to go after these people. We do not want you to engage with them. Do talk to them by all means, but I mean, we don't want you to, harass them, to uh, just generally make their life difficult unnecessarily. So, for the sake of their privacy, yeah, we did blot out their names.
And
So, with that,
the purpose of this stream, by the way, is there's going to be a segment in the upcoming Hoppa essay that we've been writing over the last couple months, which, by the way, is done. And seriously, it's around 30,000 words long. It is the longest video I've ever written, and I think probably Heretic's ever written as well. And I'm probably gonna go back afterwards and rewrite it in order to try and get it published in the form of an article as well, because it's we go that well into detail. And
we could probably get this published as a book. I'm just saying.
yeah, and as you know, for the people that are watching the stream, which hey guys, thanks for tuning in. But yeah, for those people, the Hoppian crowd that are watching, we have some comments. At least, we're not going to be stating specifically, but there's been this push to, they think they're engaging in Marxist social media tactics, where they think that if they shame us enough, we're going to we're gonna back down on our criticism. Well, I mean, we read 4 or 5 different books researching for this video, which admittedly I hadn't read before, and I don't think Heretic had either, that were written by Hans Hermann Hoppe. And after definitively being able to say that I've read more of his works than probably a lot of Hoppians have, am I going to go back on my word and apologize? Fuck no. Actually, I think I've been lenient.
Suffice to say, he is a lot worse than any of us realized. Going through his works with a fine-tuned comb really showed quite a lot of interesting insights into the contradictions and utter ridiculousness that is the basic Hoppian position. And thank you very much, Pumpkin Row, for the $5. How is monarchism status, guys? I thought rule by one was somehow rule by none, guys. So to speak. Well, I mean, obviously, everybody knows that when the entirety of society is dominated by one man with a monopoly on arbitration, that's just anarchy. That's not state rule.
The fact that they even consider monarchism and anarchism to be in the same fucking ballpark is so ridiculous. I don't even know how that got outside of just being a meme.
Nationalism and Secession. That's the book you need to look up if you want to know exactly what we're talking about. We encourage our audience very much. Please do read Hop's works. They are absolutely freaking gold mines of insanity. And Larry Bernard sends us $5. So thank you very much for that as well. Have you considered doing a Kickstarter to make your book of your excellent essay, using your top tier illustration skills to highlight it? Uh, no. I just remarked that the book is long enough for to be a book, just in passing. I don't actually intend on publishing it and putting it for sale or that kind of stuff. Honestly, it kind of sounds like a pain in the ass.
It's
not bad.
It's probably as long as Democracy, the God That Failed. Like, close.
I wouldn't go that far, but in terms of sheer word count, we're probably getting pretty close to the 100-page mark, which is probably more than and it's probably longer than Nationalism and Secession. So yeah. Anyways, let's see here.
At the very least, we have a reason to be able to say that it took like a month and a half this time.
Oh yeah, like this thing is very long. For perspective, I wrote the video, The Truth About the 2008 Financial Crisis. That video was an hour and a half long. I am absolutely certain that this video is easily going to be longer than that. It's basically a documentary. So yeah, be ready for that. Anyways, I think we should go ahead and get started by going through some memes.
We haven't introduced any arguments yet, or we haven't even commented on anything that they've said, and they're already shouting straw man in the chat.
Well, I mean, these are not memes that we made up just to make them look silly. These are not things that we coerced them into saying or otherwise edited. These are their actual screenshots, at least as we've seen, and they are authentic. So with this in mind, I think we should just go ahead and get started. And this is the first one we're looking at.
I mean, it shouldn't be hard to believe these are, Hoppean posts, given that the chat of this stream is worse than some of the comments we're going to be going over already.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just saw somebody say, the NAP is lefty trash.
Okay, Atomic, calm down. So yeah, you can see in this meme, someone believes in their soul that they are an authoritarian who runs a prison camp. It just so happens to have a ANCAP flag flying over it, so that means it's okay.
And this is going to be a very common theme, by the way. So we're not just going to be showing memes and suggesting, oh, look at these obvious jokes. So that's Hoppeans being authoritarian. No, the idea of some brutalist stone city being encased around a prison wall is a very common theme among Hoppean depictions of their own society in memes or otherwise. So that's I don't think that's satire. Do you?
It is, but I mean, we were talking about this before this stream started. I'll go over my thoughts a little bit more detail when we start seeing more examples of this, because you've only seen a small fraction of these. I've seen them all because I had to compile them into the slideshow. And trust me, there are more. So let's move on to the next one.
Man.
Yeah, this person claims they're an anarchist and still claims that they're an anarchist. It's someone you've probably heard of, but for the privacy, I'm not going to say who it is. Yeah, the alt-right is very much a third positionist, absolutist philosophy, and stating that getting people people who watch YouTube videos for political content and then radicalizing them into, third positionist authoritarianism is somehow a good thing. Yeah. Is there any questions about how it is that someone who can claim to be an anarchist can somehow also hold the position that people becoming absolutists is a good thing?
Yeah, by the way, the person who said this, we're obviously not gonna give away who it is, but I will just say it was one of the people who, when we announced that we were going to put out the Hoppa essay, was telling us, was absolutely trashing us over suggesting the mere idea that Hoppianism sort of innately restructures libertarian philosophy in a way to make people not value libertarian principles as much and deviate away towards monarchy or white nationalism.
And then they very much validated everything we've said about it through their own actions. So, next one. Oh, how did that get there?
Voltaire.
Whoops! I seem
even,
to have accidentally let that in here.
I haven't even read it yet. I just Voltaire. I know it's gonna be good.
The best part of an aristocracy is there is no bureaucracy.
Oh, I miss that guy so much. I wish he hadn't turned into a toxic asshole.
So yeah, did you know that there's no bureaucracy and aristocracy at all?
Don't see how that could be possible, given the very nature of an aristocracy being structured around rigid hierarchies with all these disincentives associated with conveying information, and the sort of inevitable mismanagement that'll lead to. The calculation problem doesn't just apply to communist states, or isn't private organizations aren't immune to it either.
And even then, just like if you break down the bureaucracy, or if you break down an aristocracy into its most basic components, like one baron who maybe has 100 serfs, you're still going to need clerks who are going to be calculating all of their tribute, all of their tithes, all of their taxes, making sure that the productivity of the peasants is up to certain standards. And you know what that is? That's bureaucracy.
It's not bureaucracy because it's part of the natural order, and nothing that's natural can be a bureaucracy.
Oh, right. I forgot that once you just put natural in front of everything, that just makes everything better. So I guess that means...
Or if you call it private, you can create the pretext for constructing a real-life version of Handmaid's Tale. And all of a sudden it becomes not only, real, but compatible with libertarianism.
All right. So does that mean that the bread tubers that you were talking about earlier before the stream started, does that mean all they have to do is just rebrand their beliefs as natural Marxism and suddenly it becomes compatible with libertarianism?
Pretty much. Actually, as a matter of fact, it's interesting that you brought that up because, there's quite a few similarities between how Hoppeans and Marxists both emerged into sort of the intellectual groups that they did, but also in the way that they defend their positions. And that's something, I'm not the first person to note that, but Filthy, you were telling me about how badly you wanted to explain that on stream.
I wanted to explain the prison, the reason that the thing about Hoppians depicting their own society as a prison.
Oh,
that was the main thing I wanted to talk about. But yeah, I was going to do that a little bit later. So let's move on to the next one. If you want libertarian ideals to survive, you might not want to advocate government bringing in people who hate those ideals and want them destroyed. Who does this? Who advocates for government bringing in people who want libertarianism destroyed other than, I don't know, absolutists, third positionists?
If you're critical of the government controlling how people can travel, or who can, or can't associate in any way that they want, well, then that's not anti state immigration. That's anti borders, and borders are the same thing as property. Not only that, but all brown people have exactly the same political views. And if you don't have borders, well, then they're going to come in and turn the country into communism.
I mean, I think you forget that if you have a certain skin tone that's darker than a certain shade, you automatically become part of the brown people hive mind.
Yep,
And
socialism and socialism is okay if it's just white people. The Tucker,
exactly,
this is the Tucker Carlson school of arguing for immigration restrictions.
exactly. I mean, I don't see what problem anyone could possibly have with this, other than the fact that, freedom of association and freedom of travel is very much an extension of self ownership. The thing that Hop developed or argumentation ethics specifically to argue for.
Yeah,
So I don't see how you could possibly be someone who unironically agrees with what Hop says in just about every way, and then somehow have this blind spot when it comes to self ownership. I mean, I know how you can, but it's just I'm just continuously stunned at the amount of self awareness that these people just generally do not have. So I'm going to the next one right now. Yeah, so the context here is that the rioting had started, like, the George Floyd was killed on late February, and then rioting started like 2 or 3 days afterwards. And then this anonymous Hoppian, who we know who it is, it's just that we're not going to say on stream, decided to post this, back the blue.
unleash the police. Poor people, stop being poor.
Yeah, so if you
Cookie,
don't
understand the reference in the audience. By the way, we're getting a lot of super chats and we're not addressing them.
I can't. You'll have to address the super chats because should I exit out of the slideshow just so we can address the super chats?
No, I'll do it. Larry Bernard sent 2 super chats. One of them says impressive mining of Discord servers. The other says philosopher hours, not an argument. Well, I mean, we've been collecting these screenshots over the span of several months.
And this is by no means the full catalog of them. If we really went out of our way to try to find Hoppy and hot takes, this slideshow would probably take multiple days to get through. But as it is, this is like a very compressed
And
series of screenshots that, yeah.
Pumpkin Row writes, Joseph Stalin is my favorite Hoppian. Mine too.
Nah, I think Kim Il Sung is my favorite.
Kim Jong Un is the best Hoppian.
No. Kim Il Sung, his Kim Jong Il's father, and
Kim Jong Un is the best because he disappeared for like a month when the Final Fantasy VII remake came out. So we know he's a weeb, and that makes him better than Kim Il Sung.
Okay, fair. Wait a minute. He's no, he's not Japanese. I was being dumb. He's Asian, so by default, doesn't that make him a weeb?
I mean, I guess.
I don't think that works, but whatever. But yeah, back to what we were talking about before. Suffice to say, once you start unironically putting forward support for legislation enforcers, basically the people who are all violently aggressing against people's rights, not only through their actions, but also through the very nature of their profession. Since, after all cops are bad cops. Either cops do their jobs, in which case they're violently aggressing against people, or they don't do their jobs, in which case they're not only bad at their profession, but they're also receiving their salary which is paid for with stolen money. All cops are bad cops. There's no way around this. And back the blue. No, screw that. The cops need to go away. You got anything else you want to say about that?
Apparently, a Hoppian just noted a point that we were actually making in our essay. He's claiming that NK has no taxes, therefore it's ANCAP, therefore Kim Jong Un is a Hoppian.
Yeah, pretty much.
Glad that we agree on that.
Definitely. Now, next. Reminder that deontological ethics don't exist and nobody is bound to them. The only ethics that would be objective would be those that come from God. I mean, I
So
think I made the case before that deontological ethics is compatible with both secular and religious worldview. Because if you're a secularist, you would understand that deontological ethics are derived from logic, which, unless you come from the opinion that logic is subjective, in which case you reject the validity of science and reason entirely, then deontological ethics is still valid. And from a Christian point of view, the point about logic is also valid, in addition to the fact that you would have to recognize that God created a logical, axiomatic universe that is understandable by humans. As
something.
such,
Oh,
it's
sorry.
as such, it is completely logical from a theistic worldview to see deontological ethics as being derived from God. They came from God.
Something that Hoppians legitimately don't seem to understand is that concepts like property, they need to have an explanation outside of they're imposed onto society by some sort of arbiter. Because that, by nature, would make them arbitrary. And if they're arbitrary, you can't claim to be a natural law theorist. But
Mm-hmm.
that's sort of that's the thing with Hoppa that Hoppians have been getting pretty pissy about over the last week or so, because I don't know where, I don't remember exactly who said it. It was probably me, because I remember saying something like that. But I've seen a couple of people say things like this, being skeptical of Hoppa's cred as a natural law theorist, um, since his entire view of society and how all these ethical norms are dependent upon enforcement and definition by arbiters. So it seems like he's not really a natural law theorist.
I genuinely don't believe so,
So
especially reading through his essay. Like, he's a
yeah,
consequentialist. Let's be honest here.
and it seeing shit like this, yeah, that does not surprise me at all. That Hoppians are, there's a very strong overlap between Hoppians and the fake libertarians, aka the consequentialists, who are paying lip service to anti-state arguments.
All right, next.
I mean the other kind of fake libertarians, because Hoppians are fake libertarians too.
That's fair. Now, reminder that monarchy is the only good political system for humanity, and everything else is useless garbage. Libertarianism is an anti political philosophy. And this person, this anarchist who claims to be anti political, is unironically putting forward a political system that is not an anti political system. I mean, anti political system is an oxymoron, but what? I'm
It's a
trying to wrap my head around this.
heretic. It's a step towards anarchy, because that's how that works.
Okay, Marx, tell me more about your dialectical historicism. I'm sorry, dialectical materialism. Why am I
Yeah,
getting those two
it's
confused?
the material dialectic, and that's one way in which Hoppians and Marxists are very similar.
Oh yeah, they even put forward a meme pretty frequently that very much illustrates that their understanding of political systems and how they change is entirely based on material dialectics.
You
I don't
put
know.
that one in the slideshow, right?
Oh, definitely, it's in there. I
That's
don't.
that's
This
the best one.
This
Yeah.
slideshow is I put forward a different order than the one it's going in. I don't know why it's doing this. So I don't know when it's going to come up. But yeah, it's definitely in here.
Oh god, he literally says "unleash the police," like
There's
Rothbard did in that one neo-reactionary essay he wrote later in his life.
oh yeah. Unleash the cops. Kick these bums out. Where will they go? Who knows? But maybe they'll be encouraged to get out of the cosseted underclass and become productive members of society. Well, the homeless should just why are the homeless homeless? Shouldn't they just buy houses?
Yeah,
This
stop.
is
Just stop being homeless. Uh, okay. Larry Bernard, thanks for the 2.99 stickers. Sorry if I if you donated more and I hadn't taken a look at them.
I can't open the live stream chat on my phone, and right now my screen is entirely the slideshow, so I can't see the super chats. If I'm not reading them, I apologize.
Yeah. Just to clarify for any like new viewers who came in, we're not this isn't intended to be a full criticism of Hoppa and his ideas. We're just laughing at dumb things Hoppians have said, because this is going to end up going into a section of the essay.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm gonna move on to the next one. Donald Trump needs to declare himself a dictator after witnessing the violence in Minneapolis. No Democrat should ever be allowed to hold power ever again.
Full Hoppian.png.
This is what I'm talking about when I talk about people going full Hoppian. They unironically put forward not only just status narratives, but they unironically start like advocating for just straight up statism.
Yeah, they're not just like reluctantly supporting pro-political perspective and the state. They're like fetishizing political authority. Like the fact that they can sit there with a straight face and try and claim that there is no connection between Hoppianism and authoritarian tendencies is just almost embarrassing for them. But it's it's kind of funny to see the side effects of it.
It's funny, but it's also very tragic. What happens when you read Hop and you actually internalize the narratives rather than rather than examining it critically?
Structuralism's a hell of a drug.
Oh, I'll say. So this is one involving you. So literally, your only problem with social contract theory is that there isn't an actual contract? Yes.
And yeah, we were like, this is part of just a longer debate, and I'm kind of, I was kind of amazed at that, stark admission at the time as well. But yeah, essentially, just in my Discord a couple months back, this person and I were talking about, like, this was a debate about contract theory and property ethics, and they were essentially just talking about the expat tax, and I brought up that was the only problem apparently that they'd had with the U.S. government, and I started comparing that to the Hoppian idea of a covenant community. And it really does seem like if you just called taxes rent, that this person and a lot of other Hoppians really wouldn't have that big of a deal with the U.S. government.
Well, forget about the U.S. government. I mean, there are only two governments in the world with an expat tax. One is like some third world country you've never heard of.
Trea.
What?
It's a TREA. It's a TREA in the United States.
Right. I wouldn't remember that off the top of my head, but yeah. So, in other words, this person doesn't have a problem with the British government, the French government, the German government, the Russian government, the Sri Lankan government, any government in the world except for the United States, and the other one I still can't recall. That's literally the only problem they have with those governments, that they have expat taxes. Other than that, income taxes, sales taxes, gasoline taxes, property taxes, any form of taxation except
fees for living in the covenant community of the United States, and they're perfectly acceptable.
But wait, what happens if the covenant community has an expat fee? Is that just?
It's the terms that you agreed to by associating with the covenant community, so they don't even really have consistent grounds in rejecting that, I guess.
Oh, and by the way, you consent to the contract of a covenant community by being born. Yeah, suffice to say, Hoppians have a very warped understanding of not only contracts, but also the social contract entirely. I don't know how this came about and how it is that Hop has done so little to really address the problem of the social contract. I mean, you can even just go to Lysander Spooner and just regurgitate his arguments in your own words. It's not hard. It's not like this is ground that has never been tread before. But I'm going to move on to the next one.
John Hasnass's arguments are, I'd say, even better than Spooner's, but yeah, I wouldn't disagree necessarily.
Now, this is reiterating what you said before. From your perspective, you don't even have an argument against taxation. Breaks NAP. And Kane says, yes, you can. Yeah, I do. I didn't sign a contract, therefore it breaks the NAP.
And then I replied jokingly, "Yes, you did. You signed the U.S. covenant by associating with the U.S. covenant community. That's
Yeah,
that's implicit consent."
I mean, that's good. If it's good enough for the state, I assume it's good enough for the covenant community called the United States government. What problem exactly do they have with the existence of a government again?
None.
I mean, I guess the problem is that entirely is that
They call
Barack
them.
Obama was in power at one point, and you can't have brown-skinned people in power. I don't know. Just let's freaking move on. Here we go. One from someone
God,
else.
what is this? Enjoy your Marxist propaganda, you hoppophobe. What's the context of this?
I actually don't remember. I think it's like this anonymous person having a problem with you and I and members of our community taking issue and having disagreements with the very concept of covenant communities. And it was very much trying to put forward, you should just do what we say or something. I don't remember. I think we should just move on.
Oh, yeah, it sounds very similar to what someone said when we were talking about like the historical ramifications of feudalism and how feudal societies were in like Middle Age Europe, and because they'd replied to that, enjoy your Marxist propaganda. Well, I don't think that was a reply to that, but yeah, they respond to people pointing out how medieval Europe was kind of like a shithole with that's Marxist propaganda, so it wouldn't surprise me if that was the context of the argument.
Even under Marxism, Marx unironically argued that feudalism was a necessary progression, that you really can't achieve a communist utopia without first going through feudalism.
Well, not only that, but in the Communist Manifesto, Marx was, he was surprisingly charitable to feudalism, for what you'd expect with the conventional understanding of Marxist philosophy. So, I mean, I guess there's another similarity that Marxists and Hoppeans have.
Huh. Oh, moving on. Oh, I think you'd recognize this pretty quickly.
This is what I was talking about earlier. No, I'm not going to apologize. Hoppa is way worse than even I initially thought. And that's the ultimate irony is, I'd read bits of Democracy, the God That Failed. I read a few essays, and just based on describing Hoppa's contract theory, I knew that it was shit. There were problems with, proof of ownership, and it kind of assumes a unilateral standard of consent in defining how consent is derived from the agreement. And also you can't exclusively own everything, because then you're committing acts of aggression against other people who aren't associating with you. So that's another problem. Didn't take right of way into consideration. But no, those admittedly were like my biggest issues with Hoppa going into my research about Hoppa's work and coming out. I don't even think this guy, there's no chance he is well intentioned. He's just a neo-reactionary who slapped the libertarian label on his philosophy.
No. He's a natural reactionary. So that makes it okay.
He's a natural reactionary. Oh, That's golden.
He
That's
knows he
golden.
knows who he is. So if he wants to correct us on that, he knows how to get a hold of us.
Oh,
But
man. That was
suffice to
great.
say, like this was posted months ago, and since our understanding of Hop has deepened and widened in its breadth, suffice to say, it's a lot worse. So don't go holding your breath for that apology. It's not coming.
Well, and that's the irony is they're claiming you didn't read enough of Hoppa to understand, and I mean, yeah, that's true, but not in the way that you intended.
I still don't know if there's like an essay that explains everything, where just like everything's gonna click. But until then, no, I don't think that essay exists. Now this
How
one is hilarious.
how to determine if someone is a libertarian or a lolbert? What's your opinion on Hoppa?
This is
And
actually completely true, just not in the
yep,
way that this person intends.
you can tell that someone's a lolbert if they have a positive opinion of Hoppa's writing.
Hell, even if they have a neutral opinion because they haven't read it yet, then I mean that's still better than a positive opinion because at least there's someone that is curious and would probably want to know. Anyways, next one. Oh, this one is this guy is a legend. Let's see if I can
Oh
zoom
my
in a bit
god,
because
the Nazi flag and everything.
this guy's an absolute legend. Now,
Oh, there's no way this
I
guy's still on Twitter.
I don't know. I did block them out, but
Oh
honestly,
yeah.
I don't think I blocked. I kind of debated between blocking out the profile picture or not because, well,
Does his Twitter bio say NSDAP Hoppian?
it reads the following: for a new NSDAP Hoppian feudalism.
It fucking does.
It literally does. For those of you who don't know, NSDAP is the anglicized acronym for Nazi. NSDAP is National Sozialistische Deutsche Arbeiterparty, which is well the German term for the Nazi Party, or the German National Socialist or the National Socialist German Workers Party. So in other words, this person's a Hoppian Nazi.
Why is Gustav Molinari put into the to put this to this picture? That's the part that I find curious. Seems like yeah, it seems like Rothbard would go into there better, but
This is supposed to
yeah,
indicate a lot of non-Jewish
yeah,
libertarian
I would
philosophers.
say that after thinking about that a little bit, that wouldn't work because Rothbard was Jewish.
Yeah, it wasn't going to work, and I didn't blot out Trudel Tom because he wasn't. He was
He
only
didn't
involved in the
say
conversation. He didn't say anything. In fact, I don't think there are any Trudel Tom quotes in this entire slideshow.
even though he is a shining example of someone who went full Hoppian.
Yeah. Now, crap. Give me a second here.
If
All right, there it goes.
you got any super chats, doesn't look like it. What the fuck is this?
I don't freaking know. I apparently forgot to blurt this one out, but honestly, if you can figure out who these people are, I'd be genuinely impressed. Since I actually don't remember who this is either.
Anarchist that doesn't support revolution.
Apparently, if you're an anarchist, you have to support revolution now. I mean, what more is there to say about that?
Nothing we haven't covered already.
Fair enough. Okay, I did do it. It's just that I
You
duplicated
did blot it out. You just fucking accidentally put the original one.
Well, I mean, I knew this was going to happen eventually, but I mean, on the plus side, I don't think anyone's going to be able to figure out who that is. Either way, hopefully not. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I
I
don't
did.
remember that is, honestly.
I genuinely do apologize. I did not intend for that to happen. That was a mistake. Oh yeah, you know what this one is.
Oh yeah.
This is
If you still weren't convinced that Hoppians were obviously proponents of political rule. Now they're unironically using the old statist canards, which any true libertarian would laugh off and not take to be a serious issue.
But what about my roads? I mean, I can see what's going on here in the sense that the understanding that Hoppians seem to have about a covenant community is that it's basically provides all the services that a state would provide, except it'll be provided by a proprietor rather than a monopoly, rather than a what we would traditionally refer to as a monopoly on arbitration. A
Which
covenant
means,
community and a private society would also be a monopoly on arbitration, but for some reason they seem to think differently.
yeah,
But
that just means that it's a monopoly on arbitration, but they call themselves a private organization, so it's okay, guys.
pretty much. And what's going on here is that he seems to fall into the same problem that a lot of statists do, and that they can't seem to conceive of ways to lay down a long, flat thing without requiring a monopoly on arbitration to fund and manage the project entirely, even though there are multiple examples throughout history of roads being provided without any sort of government oversight whatsoever.
Like every road in the US until like the mid 1930s.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this is what happens when you look at society and social conventions and interests of different people interacting as something that needs to be imposed onto them. You start having problems understanding how people can build roads,
Mm-hmm.
and then you end up becoming some sort of neo-reactionary statist.
All right, now here's another one. The monarch is simply a private property owner. Anarcho-capitalism is compatible with monarchism, so to speak.
Yeah, you know that a Hoppian is pulling one on you when they use the term "so to speak," because that's essentially just a euphemism designed to sort of give them an out if someone doesn't like the something that they said. Like you'll see, they oftentimes use that after talking about physical removal. So they can talk about initiating violence against people or simply disassociating from somebody, but it doesn't matter because they use the term "so to speak," so that gives them weasel room to try and to post hoc redefine whatever they meant, depending on the convenience. And if we're going to be completely honest, that's you know my biggest issue with Hoppians, just aside from the fact that they're not libertarians trying to co-opt libertarianism, is the fact that they use these weaselly, actively disingenuous argumentative tactics, and it comes off like they're being consciously malicious.
I call it the Jon Stewart escape plan. Towards the end of his tenure on the Daily Show, Jon Stewart started to generate controversy as people were becoming a political advocate and activist for, of course, socialism in general was becoming more obvious. And when called out for it, he was basically saying like, "Oh, I'm just a comedian. Don't take anything I say seriously," even though the science of satire and how satire works is well understood, and that when you're trying to put forward a political message, you'll sometimes do it in a humorous way in order to make your ideas more palatable. So the fact of the matter is, like, it's entirely, as you said, a very weaselly, underhanded, and very disingenuous way of putting forward your ideas. And honestly, it's given me a very, very low opinion of not only certain Hoppians, but Hoppians in general, because every time they're called out on putting forward authoritarian narratives, well, not all the time, but very frequently, they'll try to appeal to, "Oh, I wasn't being serious. I was just joking. Can't you take a joke?" I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't find authoritarianism all that funny.
Yeah, not all Hoppians, just to clarify, are the toxic dickbags in the chat right now, but like they all make those kind of like weaselly word choices when they're arguing with you about certain concepts. It's something that I like. You cannot talk to a Hoppian and not encounter this.
You'll find it at least once if you talk to one at least once. Next. Oh, this is very interesting. So Gabby was replying to a screenshot, the very same screenshot I just posted, and I seem to have accidentally not blurred out a name, and for that I do apologize.
Well, we're Gavi is not a
No,
Hoppian.
no, no, but someone else. I'm not going to draw more attention to it.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, so Gavi gets points out that this is ridiculous, and then made an argument about how it's possible to have roads in the absence of a centralized authority in building roads, and then someone just redefines what was said by this anonymous person as though, yeah, this is what we believe entirely. Yeah. You must want a covenant community then. Glad we can agree.
Yep, the good old covenant communities simultaneously are a very specific take on contract theory, but also represent everything. You can't do anything with another person without it being a covenant community, but also it represents a very specific idea of how contracts are thought of. That itself is also a very disingenuous tactic.
I
I
mean, every
believe somebody called it code switching. It's the same thing that socialists do when not socialists, but Marxists particularly do when talking about what the socialist stage of the material dialectic is.
it's a yeah, it's very unfortunate. I mean, we've talked to several Hoppians, asked them to define what a covenant community is. I mean, Hop himself defines it pretty clearly. It's a formal contract society owned where everything and all property is owned by a single proprietor. But you ask a Hoppian, they will simultaneously claim both Hop's definition and literally any time anyone interacts ever, that those are covenant communities. And as you said before, it's code switching. It's a bait and switch. They change the definitions to the point where it's convenient, to the point where the very concept of a covenant community is starting to become an anti-concept, honestly, which
Yeah.
in many ways is cheapening Hop's brand. I don't know why you'd want to do that. Make the term covenant community completely subjective and meaningless. And in case you're wondering, I flipped back to the previous one because there was an error in there and it was kind of bugging me, but I'm going to move on to the next one. Oh, this one is just a meme.
Yeah, I'm sorry that I'm being silent. I'm reading the chat and I'm looking at the fact that apparently the Hoppians rating the stream still haven't caught on to the fact that we're not trying to have a serious argument. We're just fucking taking a shit on Hoppianism.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, don't take anything we say as a, oh, yeah, some of the points that we are putting forward are serious, but in general, like, this isn't the Hop essay, obviously. Now, this one is just funny. It's called Burger King, not Burger Democracy for a reason.
Democracy is for betas that drink Starbucks, not Chads that eat Whoppers. Oh yeah.
What is so? What about people who drink at natural Starbucks?
Oh yeah, and monarchism's very Chad. Your lord gets drunk and beats you just because he's having a bad day, beats you to death, and you can't do anything about it because fucking the lord is also your judge.
Oh, it gets even better. I was doing research on feudalism, and it was actually a common practice for the lord, the baron, whoever was over you at the time, to have sex with your wife after you got married. So yeah, you were literally cucked by the nobility. But the king, but monarchism and aristocracy is Chad, literally cucked by monarchism.
Last time I checked, Chads are not cucks.
They might have changed the definition again.
Can't be a Chad. the Chad cuck. Oh my god, that'd be hilarious. One of the defining traits of the Chad Cuck literally only exists so that Hoppians can continue to call themselves Chads.
Now here's one. Someone was taking something I said. I remember this. I was making an argument about trying to clarify my position on borders, and my point is that both like any form of statist borders, whether they be open borders, closed borders, or some form of like passports, selection quota, whatever borders are illegitimate. And that's basically all I said. And he was trying to make the argument that I'm for closed borders too, which, yeah. Let's see. Is the next one? Yeah, here's more of that comment.
This is very simple to understand, guys. If you build a fence around someone's property and then claim that they need your permission to cross the fence, that's an act of aggression. You're using force against them to claim ownership over their property effectively. It's no different than using a gun, your property, to shoot and kill somebody.
You can use property in very predatory ways. I'm surprised that this kind of thing is very difficult for them. And here's more of that comment, them taking me completely out of context.
We called it exclusive ownership, therefore it has to be legitimate.
And make it even worse, even if you don't recognize legitimate ownership, you can easily see a situation in which a person encloses someone else's property, and because of property ethics, that make exclusion supreme, you can effectively lay siege to someone's property, preventing them from leaving their own property to go to work, leaving their own property to get food, get electricity, get water. You're basically laying siege to them.
Yeah, and the amazing thing is, like, they don't, like, they seem to look at this as if it's like taking away from the like as if this is an argument against property. No, that's an act of self-defense. This is an actual argument for property rights. Your position, the idea that if you exclusively own something, don't ever debate about what rightfully can be owned. Don't ever ask that question. That's an anti-property position.
It's very predatory and very disingenuous. It's actually very unfortunate that they've taken the proprietarian position, which is unfortunately not able to address the flagpole problem, which is something we're going to be going into our essay, so I'm going to withhold commenting more about that right now. So, next.
Oh, God, what is this?
Oh, I remember this. This is a comment someone made in reply to Roderick Long in his essay replying to argumentation ethics. Top is very clear about protecting individual rights, which is why left libertarians have to take their shots.
No, we could take their shots without even addressing his arguments because his arguments are dumb.
Very much so. There it goes. I don't really get why I think it is somehow contradictory. And the contradiction, if you were, this is actually something in regards to our essay. I don't know if we should talk about this or not for spoiler reasons.
Okay, well, I wasn't present for this conversation, so I don't.
Yeah, I don't think I should have put this in here. It's a little too spoilery, but you can probably. But if you're in the stream and you're reading it right now, this should at least give you an idea of what we're talking about in terms of a topic that's going to be brought up.
Oof.
This is kind of small, so I'll kind of. This is a little small, so I'll have to read it out loud. You don't have absolute free speech. You cannot say things contrary to property rights in a libertarian social order, i.e., promote communism and democracy, as that would be a performative contradiction. You cannot say anything on others' property that they do not allow you to. You cannot say anything on your own property that you have contractually agreed with, most likely with your neighbors, that you won't, example, yell fire in the middle of the night. You can, but there are consequences to doing so. Rights are subjective, but free speech should happen. Too much private property is bad. And this guy's, of course, a third positionist. Now, this guy said, you can do what? I meant cannot in a legal sense for all the things I said. Basically, under Hoppeanism, you are legally not allowed to have free speech. You say certain things, well, that's illegal.
No,
Tell
like
me again that freaking Hoppians are anarchists.
getting past the fact that yeah, the idea that there is legislative fiat that dictates how people can or can't associate in society, that's that itself implies a centralized arbiter. Thought crimes are not anarchist, and I don't give a fuck what you say. That should be the point where you start questioning whether or not what you're advocating for is actually in the libertarian canon. Actually, the point where you started asking that question is when you started advocating for monarchy. But yeah, if that wasn't it, anarcho thought crimeism is yeah, that's I you have to really turn your brain off in order to say this or even think or even like try and think about this.
I don't know if they're aware of this, but performative contradictions are not acts of aggression. Even if we accept the performative contradiction argument the against the point of advocating for democracy and communism being wrong, even if we did accept that performative contradiction, that it was performative contradiction, which I don't think it is, even if we accept that as true, it's not illegal. What the hell are these guys talking about? Oh, this is a
under
YouTube.
one of my videos.
Yeah, this is a YouTube comment. Property
Oh,
my community.
I remember this.
Then why don't you explain it?
So this was on one of the Bad Take Shorts videos, and somebody left property my covenant community doesn't own is theft. And then another Hoppian wrote, "Whoever knows how to take to defend the thing to him belongs property. What I have in my power." I'm sorry, it's kind of hard to read on my end because the text is small.
Can I read it?
My own, so long as I assert myself as holder, I am the proprietor of the thing. My power is my property. My power gives me property. My power am myself. That's not right, but okay. And through it, I am my property. And I sort of jokingly replied because there's literally nothing you couldn't justify using that reasoning.
I mean, this is just a straight up might makes right. And you point out when you take ownership of a 6-year-old sex slave and bash their parents' brains out for trying to intervene because they're weaker than you.
Because that's just that argument taken to an extreme, but it's logical conclusion nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, this is just straight up might makes right. Oh, this is something I was involved in. I take it you don't have any problem with centralization, feudalism, central planning, voting, or the roads argument. There's nothing. He didn't say it, but
I think
I'm assuming he said
nothing wrong with centralization. I'm assuming he meant.
Yeah, centralization and decentralization are both neutral. When state does centralization, it's bad because it has no price signals. Voting, nothing wrong with that. But Hobbes doesn't like political parties because he believes there's no such thing as a non-left political party. And I replied, that's why Austrian economics is on the left side. And that was in reference to a meme I made in regards to comparing like actual Austro-libertarianism and anarchism to Hoppianism, where I put like centralization, unironic racism of voting roads on the Hoppian side and logical consistency, Aristotelian ethics, and Austrian economics on the right side.
It was one of those like SO derangement syndrome memes, but you edited it and like made their side look poorly. And they started sharing it around unironically because they didn't see any problem with the things that you described to the Hoppian position.
Yeah, but in regards to this comment, yeah, Hoppians don't seem to have any problem with centralization, except when it comes to the fact that there's no price signals, even though that the fact that there's no price signals is a symptom of centralization entirely. That's how the freaking thing works.
Yeah, as I pointed out earlier, this same problem exists within market actors that attempts to create internal management hierarchies.
I still am trying to figure out, like, what way do Hoppians have in terms of being able to refute political rule on a conceptual basis? I don't think they have any. Other than, I don't know, some vague appeal to argumentation ethics that, or something is just like, oh, you know, we don't have a natural aristocracy, therefore democracy bad. That's the impression, at least I get from reading Hopp's books and essays.
I can't beat black people that I rent my house to death, therefore it's not an anarchy.
I guess so. Oh, here we go. I think we're getting into the meme segment finally.
Yeah, I'm tired of even really trying to treat it like it's a serious argument.
I mean, at this point, it's like you have a minarchist, someone who is pretty apolitical, and a third positionist, all claiming that it's all one big struggle. No,
Yeah.
it's not. No, it's not. These people all had three diametrically opposed views. So I don't get where this is coming from.
Hoppeanism, egoism, and Christianity combined, what do you get? It's the appetizer!
You got to put that into the video and make sure you have that clip in there.
I don't know how I'm gonna be able to put that clip into the video without it fucking getting our channel a copyright strike, but yeah.
That's easy. Just rotate the footage 2 degrees.
Or like flip it backwards.
Or that.
Pretty easy to do in Hit Film Express.
Yeah. All right, so next. Oh, this is kind of small, so let me just read this aloud. Let me smash the state by selling dildos to my tranny friends. Look at me, I'm such a rebel, said every agorist. Meanwhile, me and my boys over here making Robert E. Lee proud.
Let me smash the state by getting beat to death by my drunk landlord.
Obviously. I mean, how else are you going to achieve free society? Oh, here we go. Yeah, this is a
meme, but this is another example of a Hoppian society being painted as a 1984-esque prison world.
Yeah. So I said earlier that I wanted to talk about the depiction of a prison being a consistent thing in Hoppian imagery. And this is the point where I want to talk about it because it's too consistent not to bring up that they see their own society as basically a prison that needs walls, barbed wire, guard houses, towers with armed guards with rifles. It's too consistent, and I think I forget what I was going with this actually. Crap. But basically, it's very interesting that within their own art, within their own framework, they see their own society as a prison. That somehow the kind of highly controlled, centralized, and locked off society is going to achieve freedom somehow, which is also very strange because in one of Hopp's essays, I forget which, he says that smaller states will only become smaller because of free trade. Wouldn't having these giant prison walls everywhere be a direct inhibitor to free trade? And even then, it's not societies that do free trade. It's not societies that engage in international trade. It's individuals. It's economic firms. They engage in trade. This is just a direct impediment.
Agorists are the Jews of anarchism.
What?
Somebody wrote that comment. I mean, you mean we're the real Austrians because that's what agorism is.
Pretty much. Number 17. Agorism is a tarded philosophy. And although I don't hate counter-economist types, there is no way the black market will end the state, but instead may have the inverse effect by prolonging it due to easing the people's suffering. A good thing, but not for ending the state.
What the fuck?
I mean, you are aware that the black market in American record sales brought the Soviet Union government to its knees routinely. This was a thing that happened constantly. It's really not that difficult. And even then, like the extent to which technology, which is part of the agorist praxis, developing technology that makes the state irrelevant, is going to destroy the state, I think is fairly well understood. You have cryptocurrency, you have 3D printing, and yes, you can 3D print a nuclear reactor.
Yeah, didn't you show me that article recently? Might have to like make a news video for that.
Yeah, that's
Oh
suffice to
god,
say.
we predicted it going in that this the salt that this stream was gonna get in response was gonna be twice that of the last time we streamed on your channel.
And I'm assuming the salt mines are overflowing. I can't see the comments, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy right now.
Beautiful. So let's go to the next one. Yeah, this is I mean, I remember you putting forward the idea that we should make Hoppian memes that make Hoppianism look dumb and authoritarian, and then sharing it as though it were serious.
Yeah,
we
don't
need to
do that.
We don't even have to. They already do it.
1433. It should be 14888 because the white nationalists have HH, the Hoppians have Triple H.
Mm-hmm. Suffice to say, yeah. Now let's see what we got here. There's nothing racist about stop and frisk. If anything, it saves lives in the black community, but apparently not hurting people's feelings is more important than saving people's lives. Your kink is big government, and yeah, that's it. I'm kink shaming. It shrunk the prison population in New York City by 42%, so you must love big government locking people up and making you pay for it.
It almost doesn't even faze me that there's a Hoppian very brazenly advocating for aggression against people for no reason other than the state's "we need to make society safer" narrative. But yeah, the idea that it reduced crime or that's ridiculous.
I mean, you can get a reduction in prison population in an area very easily just by, making things not illegal anymore. I don't know, but I would think if the state just released all the prison population, that this guy would consider it to be a great success.
Oh yeah, that fucking. Oh man, that was hilarious. That's still my favorite, honestly.
Yeah, so basically, Hop and Hoppians unironically put forward feudalism as though it were some great ideal that we should strive for, and when we call them out on it, and the fact that Hop unironically argued in Nationalism and Secession that serfdom was compatible with his voluntary free society. Yeah, they for some reason took issue with that. Nobody should ever question God Emperor Hop.
Hoppa picked up Road to Serfdom and mistook it for an instruction manual.
I think so.
But yeah, of all the streams where I should have used that account icon, it definitely should have been this one. This is the one where it would have been appropriate, and I didn't use it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to be fair, Esso as the Joker is pretty awesome, so I enjoy that more.
Although to be fair, what everyone's been seeing basically for most of the stream is just the slideshow, so they wouldn't be able to see it anyway.
That's fine.
That's unfortunate, but let's keep going. The point is that the feudal order is proof that people can in fact provide order and protect property rights without a centralized state but voluntary associations. You hear that? Feudalism was voluntary. What the what did they get this from? I mean, I know they got it from Hop, and I don't know where the hell Hop got it
Because they
from.
called it private. They called it
Right,
private.
right.
A
Yeah, I forgot.
standard,
Like if you,
a standard which is defined by the state. It's
yeah, I mean, this
not,
all you have to do is just call it private or call it natural, and automatically it's great and wonderful and perfect. Good lord, where the hell did they get this from? Where did I get these from? I mean, I know where I got these from, but I'm just like, what the hell? It's just bewildering to see these again. Now, this is something interesting I found. I don't remember how we got this in the first place, but
hardcore anti-Hoppian, so just someone who understands libertarianism.
yeah, pretty much. And I know who proposed this. Suffice to say, they're one of the two Hoppians I dislike the most. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
I mean, like, I'm just going to tell them right out, it wasn't going to work because we have a very clear and principled understanding of why Hoppianism would work, and we would be, or why Hoppianism is authoritarian. And if you just try to play forward some like very basic bitch arguments, or even try to disguise anti-libertarian arguments in the form of anti-Hoppianism, we'll be able to spot it pretty quickly.
yeah. Like they seem to this person at least seems to have bought into a bit of their own bullshit. The idea that I just object to Hoppa because I see the name or I see a reference to an idea which he introduced or popularized, and I shake my fist and scream, "That dirty kraut trying to pollute my libertarianism." But no, actually, I have a pretty coherent argument as to why Hoppianism is nothing more than Nazi propaganda. I'm sticking by that one, and I'm sure that the salt count coming out of the mine just doubled after that.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, you just spoke out loud, so obviously that produces salt by itself. Here's another of the Hoppian memes.
I should
Somehow,
start. I should start just calling Esso a salt fox instead of an Arctic fox because
I really like that idea actually.
he's a salt fox.
See, I told you had no C.
Anyway, what is this? Pe-
Basically, it's
People didn't have covenant communities, so all the brown people came in and lined them up against the wall,
yeah, pretty much.
and got the Hoppa snake in there with his Pinochet hat because Pinochet. When commies say Pinochet was a libertarian, Hoppians are like, well, fuck it. We're already trying to connect libertarianism to feudalism. Might as well get a dictator in recent history under our hat. Hold on.
All right, I'll go on a little. I'll go on then. Capitalism is neo-feudalism. Lol. Yes. I mean, I think we've talked about this pretty much. This absolute ridiculous conflation with feudalism and Hobbes' idea of a natural order. He very much constructs the idea of a natural order specifically to be structured as a feudal society. I'm pretty sure. I can't say for sure, but I am reasonably sure that, or I'm reasonably confident that Hobbes started from the premise of feudalism being great and wonderful and perfect, and then worked backwards from that. He incorporated the idea of Austro-libertarianism into it somewhere. How and when, I don't know why,
By which
but
he just uses the term praxeology and human action every now and then, even though he's not talking about Austrian economics.
no, he just likes to throw that out just to increase his credibility, and so the big boys over at Mises.org don't throw him out for the absolute fraud that he is.
Like, you're co-opting libertarianism even more than Rothbard did in the 80s when he tried to inherently associate the libertarian movement with the Libertarian Party. Get on in here. You're exactly the kind of person we need in the Mises Institute.
Now, here's a meme that they unironically put forward. It's the same thing as before, except a little bit more social justice-y, where it's like
Wall of
top
text.
is it's a bit of a wall of text. Not only that, but it part of that wall of text is you can't just fuse libertarianism and feudalism into some dystopian nightmare world. The fact they use this language and then Hop goes, "That is where Z is wrong, kiddo," is
this
absolutely hilarious.
Is this an actual Hoppian meme, or is this something that, like, I honestly don't remember this. The fact
it's real.
The fact that they seriously described it as a dystopian nightmare, that honestly surprises me. So, I mean, they like the idea of their prison society.
Guess so. Moving on. Yeah, here we go. This is exactly what you were talking about before. 1488. They're just going full on with like the Nazi authoritarian support. Only thing is though they're rebranding it under the form of
less Hitler, more Hoppe. This I don't think that, like, I'm hoping an actual Hoppian did not seriously make this, but I'm pretty sure
they probably we know they did. Come on. I want to just go through. I just want to go to memes now. Now, this is what I was talking about before in regards to the Hoppian historical dialectic. That somehow a fascist state can progress into a monarchy, which progresses into the Declaration of Independence, which progresses into Dixieland, which somehow progresses into anarcho-capitalism. And I'm just wondering how does this?
Yeah, this looks and reads like something that would come out of the mind of a fucking 10-year-old. It's like seriously, like the idea that society is comparable to a machine where you can just pull the lever and that changes the mode of the machine. Like that almost implies a kind of central planning mentality. Like that's the way that Keynesians look at banking.
It's the same way that just generally authoritarians and technocrats look at society. It's just pieces on a chessboard that can be moved around, and it's so. And that getting to anarchism is just as simple as grabbing a lever. I assume that that's supposed to be some representation of the levers of power, but this is exactly what we were talking about before in regards to their acceptance and desire for political power and their desire for political rule. They have no arguments or way to refute political rule conceptually. They just want to grab hold of it.
They love political power. They're perfectly okay with political power as long as the despots that they throw themselves behind promise to pay lip service to Austrian econ and what they claim is libertarianism. But we're, that would require some standards, and we're long past any sense of, necessary understanding of the world at this point.
Mm-hmm. And here's a pretty dumb straw man argument that you've probably seen, mostly related to the question of the border wall, and that somehow
seems like following the logic of this meme. I mean, this is a pretty good case for like going out of your way to help people undermine immigration laws, because they're gonna take all the welfare and make the state harder to sustain.
I mean, that's what I was thinking as well. Wouldn't this accelerate the downfall of the state unless Hoppians unironically believe that governments have infinite money, in which case they can't call themselves Austro-libertarians, because that's one of the basic premises of Austro-libertarianism, that there's not infinite resources. Hell, that's the basic premise of economics in general.
Yeah, but this like seems to suggest that the government's gonna become more influential if like there's more of a population that they have to try and manage and more that they have to spend on sustaining it. If anything, these sort of underground tunnels or these networks that help people illegally immigrate, that's a form of counter economics, if anything.
Oh yeah. And not to mention that we're already seeing municipalities and areas all across the country they're not only cutting their budgets for their police departments, but they're also cutting budgets for teachers, which is, I think I'm actually going to talk more about this on my Two Senses stream tomorrow. But yeah, I think there's a
We're
very good reason, there's a very good case to be made that the government's already going bankrupt and is already at the point where they're going to have to start cutting agencies.
Yeah,
At
we're
least on the local
already at
level.
the point right now where like we're witnessing the government's downfall in real time and the affirmation of everything that agorists have been saying. Like there's a reason why most of the libertarian movements, being centered around agorists, and the reason why the party types and the Hoppeans hate agorists so much.
Hmm. And here's more of that. Agorists are private enemy number one.
If
And
by private you mean the Hoppian Covenant community, you're goddamn right we are.
we are going to destroy your covenant community, and there's not a damn thing you can do to stop us.
You're gonna burn your idea of a covenant community ever existing and your entire approach to what you call libertarianism to the ground, and there is not a fucking thing you can do about it.
Hell, we'll defend Marxists if we have to. Now, this is absolutely hilarious, and I'm glad this one showed up because you remember when Mr. Dapperton was in the server at one time, and he was talking about why we should support Trump because he owns the libs.
Didn't he post this?
No, I don't think he did.
Somebody in response to him, yeah.
Maybe, but it's got the Hoppy and Snake memes tag, so I got a feeling that this is something that they put forward unironically. So suffice to say, yeah, they support political rule. They support political rulers. And no matter how they try to label themselves, their actions, their beliefs, and the ideas that they put forward are clearly in a complete contradiction to whatever it is that they want you to believe about them. I mean, trust your own judgment about this. Come on.
Also, why is the mutualist in there crying with them? And the individualist anarchist, why are they in the safe space? Seems like they'd have the same attitude as the agorist in that situation.
Oh, I think you know why. Should I explain it? Because Hoppians don't really have
ideas. I don't know what you're thinking.
They don't really have an understanding of other ideas outside of their own, and so it's very easy for them to conflate any form of non-Hoppian anarchism as left libertarianism.
You're not a Hoppian, therefore you're a communist.
Yeah, pretty much. It's very lackadaisical. And with this, it's a very lackadaisical understanding. And since that point has actually been brought up, this actually does look more and more like something that Mr. Dapperton would make, simply because his understanding of libertarianism is lacking, to say the least.
Vote for Trump to own the libs.
Pretty much. So I think that's all the time we have for it. Fact of the matter is, like, we've ran out of time quite a bit ago.
Okay. Any other super chats?
Not that I see. I mean, I haven't been paying attention to chat at all, so yeah, I can see right now like we got 44 viewers, but yeah, we're gonna have to start wrapping this up now. So, anyways, yeah, the Hop script is finished. I put finish with an asterisk because there's still a lot of fine tuning to do. But in general, yeah, the script is done. We're just proofreading and we're already starting to record. So you can expect that, I would say, within a week.
Yeah.
Does that sound fair?
Definitely by the end of June for sure.
Oh, by the end of June, it'll be easy.
Yeah, this, just responding to the chat. Script is finished, and yeah, like I'm just getting done recording my lines, so like it's gonna be pretty awesome. Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing your response, Hoplu. You're gonna love it.
Oh, it's going to be absolutely phenomenal.
We didn't read your super chat, Pumpkin. What did it say? Yeah, we haven't been looking at the chat much throughout the stream because otherwise I'm gonna end up getting caught up just responding to the comments from what I've seen are infinitely worse than any of the posts we responded to in the stream.
Hmm. So basically, to wrap things up, anarcho monarchism, anarcho feudalism, anarcho fascism, those are all forms of anarcho statism. And quite frankly, if you're putting forward those as your ideas, you should be embarrassed. Hoppeanism is a statist philosophy that is subversive to libertarianism and ultimately detrimental to it. And the sooner libertarians realize this, I think the sooner
Yep.
I think the more effort I think we can finally start making some effort in, putting forward ideas more effectively than we have been in the past, because a large part of our ineffectiveness has to do with a large part of the ideas that people who profess to be libertarians put forward.
Yeah, Hoppianism is far more harmful to libertarianism than Marxism or any other form of overt authoritarianism ever could be, because it's just a form of neo-reactionary philosophy which looks for any pretext whatsoever to justify manufacturing a private version of Brave New World that's technically compatible with libertarian ethics. And as we're going to go over in greater detail in the essay, but as we kind of touched upon over here, it's just based on broken conceptions of how people operate and how ethical conclusions within the libertarian framework are formed. So 0 out of 10, you guys would be far more comfortable with Mencius Moldbugger, Richard Spencer, and Richard Spencer, by the way, was originally a member of the Property and Freedom Society. So, I'm not just pulling names out of my ass. But then you are with the libertarian movement, which is increasingly moving towards the Aristotelian ethics of Roderick Long and Sam Gonkin, and recognizing that people are individuals, and because people are individuals, it only really makes sense to treat disassociation from the state through counter economizing as the best way to approach this.
And we got a super chat from Pumpkin Row, says Hoplu won't make a response. He no make content. Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're doing. You're trying to get him fucking riled up.
Well, I mean, no, he's not going to make a response, especially since we know that the
Sorry if me pointing that out undermined what you're trying to do, Pumpkin, but I even if you're not trying to prod at him, Hoppians are gonna fucking explode once we publish the essay. Like
yeah.
we
Now,
can,
this is actually I just want to put this up because it's very interesting. Richard Spencer is a National Socialist now. He kicked out libertarians from his movement. He is the perfect example of full Hoppianism. It's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah.
He was originally a libertarian in Hoppa's little group of quasi-intellectuals, and now he's a National Socialist.
He went full hop.
Connection.
Never go full Hoppianism. So with that, yeah, we're gonna close the stream off. Anyways, thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you later. Bye.